One of the biggest dangers facing mankind as a species is the fight for the control of the planet and its resources. And that fight is being won by those who have accumulated the most wealth. And they are ruling everybody else. They're controlling everybody else through their control of the information that people receive. They control the media, and the media is the machine that conditions people's minds. They control the information that people receive, which controls people's beliefs, their belief of the situation. That is the biggest fight to mankind at this moment in time. Collectively, people need to wake up to this. Collectively, people need to demand that the rules and regulations that have been developed over the history of time to prevent tyranny, to prevent injustice, to prevent wrongdoing are actually applied to these tyrants, to these criminals that have found themselves in these positions because of the corruption that is taking place. Our world isn't controlled by government. Our world is actually controlled by greater financial controlling interests who pull the strings of government. They corrupt governments and make governments create policies that benefit them, not the people. The people are the people that end up paying for it. Our lives are impacted. We become essentially enslaved to a system that is entirely set up to benefit those with the wealth. They have that much wealth that they own and control everything. They own the media. They own the machine which conditions everybody's mind to believe things to be a certain way. They own the governments because they pay off the representatives. They corrupt them, and those representatives, supposedly of the people, carry out the wishes of those with wealth and power. This is tyranny that we are living in. Wake up to it, because that is what is happening. This is an example in sport which I hope will wake a lot of people up. In 2021, the sport of Formula One contrived an outcome. So what they did, they perpetrated a crime. They did something that is illegal. They broke the rules. And again, apply this to society. In society, we have rules, we have regulations as to why things have to be done a certain way. Okay, we've defined some ways of doing things as being wrong because they disadvantage some people, they harm people, and therefore we've developed rules and regulations to ensure that people aren't harmed and disadvantaged in a certain way. These people are riding roughshod over those rules and regulations for their own personal benefit. So this is an example that took place in sport. Sport has rules, it has regulations. They rode roughshod over them to achieve an outcome that they wanted, which gave them a huge amount of money, profit. That was illegally gained. They utilised their media mind conditioning machine to make people think that it was just a mistake, to make people think, oh, maybe it was possible. Maybe nobody really knew what was going on here. It was an entire contrivance. So this is an example of how this show, how the sport of Formula One actually needs to be carried out. And then I'm going to follow it up with what they actually did at Abu Dhabi. And it's a clear comparison. If you can follow this, which it should be easy to follow, please invest the time in just following this. Because I can talk about it and you will pick and choose whether or not you believe my words. Believe your own eyes. Okay? Believe your own eyes and see what is actually going on. What is actually going on is going on for a reason, for the actual reasons that I will explain to you. And yet what the presented experts will present to you is something completely different. What the presented experts will lie to you about is something totally different, and they're doing so because they're being paid to lie to you, because they're being paid to further the agenda of the corruption that is ruling this, and that they own the media and they own the ability to condition our minds to believe their falsehoods. Here is the example. So, Formula One is a sport contested by men driving fast cars. Clearly, there is some jeopardy. If there is a car that crashes, then the driver could sustain an injury. It needs dealing with. If a car is crashed close to the racing car circuit, then there's a danger there that another motor racing car could go off the circuit in that location and crash into that car, and that situation could be even worse, could result in a loss of life. So to deal with safety concerns, you have to have procedures to make things safe so that sport can be conducted. So essentially, in a Formula One motor racing race, if an incident takes place which causes a safety concern, that race gets nullified. What has taken place to that stage of that race, all of the gaps that you've built up, all the lead that you may have built up over the guy that's behind you, well, that gets wiped out. Okay, it's a strange way of doing things. There are alternatives in terms of if that's the way that they would create regulation so that there were alternative ways of doing it, because they've got the technology to do so, but they don't. Part of that is to create a spectacle to keep people interested. But the current regulations, the current rules that have been in place since the beginning of the 2012 season are this set of procedures that must be carried out if you have to neutralise racing to deal with a safety incident. And that is that the race essentially stops. You can't be racing other competitors, and that stops for everybody. And before racing restarts, the conditions have to be reset for everybody. Now, when I say reset, if you've overtaken competitors in that event, you keep hold of those positions that you've gained. But if you've built up a gap and are ahead of somebody now by 10 seconds, that 10-second margin gets wiped out. But if you're behind somebody by 20 seconds, that gets wiped out as well. So you close the gap on the car in front of you, but the car behind you closes the gap on you. Now, clearly that doesn't seem necessarily fair, but the reality is it's the same condition for everybody. And yes, in one race you might feel that you've been disadvantaged by that, but in another race you might feel you've had the benefit of that. When it's a uniform set of rules and regulations that are affecting all competitors in the same way, okay, all of you that are in this race, we've had to stop this race to deal with a safety incident. The gaps that are between all of you now get wiped out. The only way we restart this race is to restart this in the correct race order with all of those previously built up advantages wiped out. If everybody knows that, everybody knows that they're the parameters of the competition, then that is what you're competing under. It's a known dynamic. So, this is an example of what the sport knows. And when I say what the sport knows, we are talking about all of those people competing in the sport. So that's all teams, all drivers, the principal people within those teams that are making the decisions in terms of the strategy that you're going to employ in that race. They all know about these regulations. They all know what happens. All the teams, all the drivers know. Race control, the governing body of the sport, like the FA in football who provide the referees to the football matches, they know what the rules of that sport are. They know the purpose of those rules and regulations and why it is you carry out this procedure before you resume racing. Because it's the FIA who are responsible for overseeing these sporting contests and making sure that they comply with the rules and regulations and making sure that they are carried out in a safe environment and in a safe manner. So you have a race director in Formula One, not who's refereeing, okay, but is overseeing the event and making sure that that event is taking place with safety the foremost consideration and compliance to those regulations that must be carried out to ensure that that contest is carried out in accordance with the rules and regulations of the sport. In terms of refereeing decisions, in terms of determining who or which competitors may have committed an infringement or not, they have a set of stewards who will be looking at situations that occur which are potential infringements of the rules and regulations or the driving standards. So the stewards do that. The race director, race control, is there to oversee the safe running of the event and to ensure that the event is ran in accordance with the rules and regulations. This example is a clear example of what the rules and regulations are when a race, a Formula One Grand Prix, has to be neutralised due to there being a safety concern, a safety incident. This is the 2020 Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. You can see this graphic of the safety car ending on lap 57 of 63, meaning the race resumes from the beginning of lap 58. Keep that in mind, because we're going to rewind this to the start of the safety car window, whereby something happens which then requires the safety car to intervene to make the situation safe, and then we can resume the sporting contest. That sporting contest does not get resumed until lap 58. When did it start? So I've rewound to lap 51 of 63. Okay, as you can see, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix at Imola of 2020. On this bar at the bottom of the screen, okay, you have these dots which represent the competitors, and Hamilton is the leader of that race. Okay, Hamilton's dot is here. I'll switch to track view shortly so you can see what this looks like on track. Okay, but what you need to see here is the data view, lap 51 of 63. An incident will occur on this lap, the 51st lap. Hamilton, the leader, will be approximately halfway around lap 51. The race has to be neutralised on this lap to deal with a safety incident. It doesn't resume until lap 58. So half of lap 51 is not contested because it can't be, because the safety car is deployed. And then you've got lap 52, 53, 54, 55, 56 and 57. That is 6.5 laps of a Grand Prix become uncontested due to the deployment of a safety car to deal with a safety incident. I'm going to show you that in this video. 6.5 laps of a Grand Prix wiped out in dealing with a safety incident. At Abu Dhabi 2021, there were only 5.4 laps remaining in that race. On average, this kind of incident, a safety incident in a race where the leader has begun lapping the slower cars in the field, on average, 5.5 laps are removed from that race or go uncontested due to that safety car having to be deployed and having to carry out this procedure before racing can resume. 5.4 laps remained at Abu Dhabi. Immediately, the mind conditioning machine, the sports media, Martin Brundle, told the world there's bound to be a couple of racing laps here. And that's when Max Verstappen's much fresher tyres will fire up on any kind of restart. The statistics do not back that up. This is going to prove to you what actually happens, what all the teams know happened, what the commentators of the sport know happens because they experience it, they commentate on it. And yet at Abu Dhabi, the mind conditioning machine is paid to tell you to expect that something else is going to happen before it happens. Understand that it is paid operatives being paid to condition your mind to believe something that's not allowed to take place, to excuse it, to tell you there's different reasons for it, to try to pretend that the rules and regulations that exist, they exist for different purposes, and they don't really matter. Don't you worry about that. Enabling them to profit from the situation. So, what we're going to see, all right, we'll put it onto track of you. It's a bit easier to see. In fact, just before I do, Verstappen is 14 seconds behind Hamilton. Okay, Bottas is 10 seconds behind Verstappen. So Bottas, the third place competitor, is 24 seconds behind the leader. Okay, who's in the way of the race between the leaders? The second place being behind first. Who's in the way of second place being able to challenge? Well, 14 seconds are in the way. Okay. You want to see a fight between second and first? Well, he's 14 seconds away from being able to fight him, isn't he? That's the way this sport works. Okay, but again, listen to the hype job that you're going to hear in the next video about Abu Dhabi. Track of view.
That's a little bit.
So, on track. Top section of the screen, you're seeing Hamilton at what they classify as turn 8. Verstappen in second place is approaching turn 5, but is going to suffer a puncture, which is going to spin him out of the race. So let's play this forward. Now, third place is Valtteri Bottas. Valtteri Bottas is on his way to turn 2. So you can see just how far he is behind the leader. Prior to Verstappen suffering this crash, this is how contested this sport is. This is how much one competitor is beating the other by here, who will ultimately, because with Verstappen's departure from this race, second place becomes Valtteri Bottas. All right, this other dot that's beneath the pink dot here, heading towards turn 2. Fourth place in this race is back here at turn 14. Look how far fourth place in the race currently is, who then might be promoted to, well, should be promoted to third when Verstappen crashes. Look how far he is behind first. First is closer to getting around the track and passing him, rather than third place being able to challenge for the win there, isn't he? This is the nature of the sport. Anyway, let's play it.
In that battle for third in the Constructors' Championship as a result of a disappointing...
So the blue dot of Verstappen has become stationary at turn 5 here. That's because he's spun out. All right. So you're going to get yellow flags to deal with a safety incident, and then you're going to get the deployment of a safety car.
Race weekend for them. Still out in front. Lewis Hamilton. Oh dear, that's Max Verstappen. As you can see, right rear tyre has gone completely. What has happened to Max Verstappen? That starts to put the cat amongst the pigeons.
Something broke on the car.
Oh.
So initially we get yellow flags that appear on the data screen.
Dear.
That neutralises the racing in that area of the track. There's no overtaking permitted. Cars must slow down.
Several drivers here suffering the most wretched of luck, and I wonder if that's safety car time as well. It's stuck in the gravel.
They wonder if it's safety car time. You see this bar at the bottom of the screen. Hamilton is reaching the right-hand side of the bar, which indicates he's reaching the end of this lap, which is the end of lap 51.
And it's not in a very good position at all. And you can see there the damage to the right rear tyre.
Safety car declared. Okay, so that safety car will exit the pit lane. Hamilton is yet to complete lap 51. He will be picked up by that safety car. Okay, so it's deployed on lap 51, which means lap 52, 53, 54, 55, and 56, and 57, 6 laps will be completed behind that safety car before racing can resume. The incident took place around about halfway around lap 51. So 6.5 laps of that race are impacted. Like I say, there were only 5.4 laps remaining in Abu Dhabi when Latifi crashed. Brundle and Crofty were commentating on this event where 6.5 laps of a race were wiped out due to a safety concern. When there were only 5.4 laps remaining, they told you you're going to see a couple of racing laps. There's bound to be a couple on any kind of restart. That's not authentic, is it? That's not using your experience, your knowledge of these types of situations to explain correctly to the viewers the likely timescale of what this is going to take out of the race and what needs to take place before we go racing again. They lied to us. They lied to us in Abu Dhabi about what needs to happen, what the rules and regulations are, what procedures need to be carried out, and importantly, the purpose of those regulations and procedures. They completely lied, and they did so to further the agenda of the perpetrators who designed that fraudulent event. They designed it to create drama. They designed it to generate the outcome that they wanted, that they hugely profited from. They profited from selling the show. They profited from creating the drama. They profited from creating the controversy that has increased engagement through toxicity that they continue to profit from. They incited effectively warfare within the social media environment that they make money out of. The creation of conflict in this world that people profit from. Understand how these dynamics extrapolate to other things that are going on in this world. The creation of a conflict that certain controlling powers profit from. Open your eyes, wake up. So, we'll get on to track review and we'll see what goes on here. In terms of lapped cars, you have this list of competitors and the data timing screen tells you whether the leader has lapped a car or not. Russell, +1 lap. Raikkonen, +1 lap. Vettel, +1 lap. Giovinazzi, +1 lap. Latifi, +1 lap. Grosjean, +1 lap. And Stroll, +1 lap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lapped cars as detailed. It is very easy. It's technology that has existed for a long, long time. Technology and timing screens that are at their disposal. They have them. So trying to make claims that, you know what, even identifying who the lap cars is not as easy as you think, which is what the mind conditioning media machine tried to present to the world the day after the Abu Dhabi race was fixed. Martin Brundle, again, the mind conditioning media puppet, was put in front of us to tell us that. That's how easy it is. Right there. Using that data screen. Tracker view.
Right rear.
Let's have a look what it looks like on tracker view. The leader of the race, as on this list on the right hand side of the screen, first place Hamilton. He's the leader. Going back around that track behind him, you've got a blue dot. Second place in the race is now Valtteri Bottas. Okay, but on track, the car behind Hamilton, well, the first one is Russell. Russell is in 11th position, indicating the leader has passed 11th position. He's lapped 11th place. So therefore, 11th place and downwards have been lapped. So 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th. Magnussen is out. Okay, so they're the remaining running competitors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars. It's easy to see, it's easy to count. You can confirm this by going Hamilton. Up the road from Hamilton is an orange dot of Norris. Norris is in 10th. The leader, Hamilton, has passed 11th, but he hasn't made it up to 10th position yet. So, what is going on? This is a fast competitor. He's that fast that he goes away from everybody else. And he's that fast that he comes around the track and starts catching the ones that are slower. However, this guy here in 11th, ignore Hamilton for the moment, Russell, he is trying to catch the orange dot of Norris, the burgundy dot of Raikkonen. He's firstly trying to catch Russell and overtake Russell. The red dot, which will be Sebastian Vettel in a Ferrari, okay, a faster car, he's currently behind Raikkonen. Don't know what's going on in this race at the moment. Doesn't really matter. These are all people competing in a sporting contest, trying to battle each other for position and overtake each other and trying to catch the next guy that's in front of them. Trying to finish as high up in that race as possible to try and achieve as many points as possible that will add into their season-long points tally, which will determine their finishing position in the World Championship for that sport. That's the way it works. So, Russell here, the blue dot, is trying to catch Norris, and if he catches and passes Norris, he'll earn 1 point for the World Championship. That's what his aim is. And likewise, Raikkonen and Vettel, they are trying to do the same. They're trying to catch these two guys in front of them and ultimately catch Norris and these cars ahead of Norris. Because of a incident which has caused a safety concern, Verstappen crashing here at turn 5, not his fault, okay, not Verstappen's fault, suffered a puncture, but that has left a car stranded in the gravel, and if another car goes off the track at that location and smashes into that car, somebody might die. So you need to deal with that. They deal with it by deploying the safety car. The safety car comes out on track and it picks the lead car up, slows the lead car down, and the other cars that are travelling slightly faster at that point end up catching that lead car, and they all end up in a bunch behind that safety car. That creates an opportunity where the cars are slower, creating a safer environment, and they can pass the sight scene, and it'll be 2 minutes before they make it around the track, giving a much safer working environment for the clear-up operation. But what's going to happen? Russell, in 11th position, has to hold station behind Hamilton, behind this safety car. 10th place, Lando Norris, he is allowed to disappear off around the track and ultimately end up at the back of this safety car snake. Essentially now would become a lap ahead of Russell, who is held back. You have to reset the situation for everybody. You cannot allow a situation where these cars are now disadvantaged just because Verstappen's crashed. Russell is now no longer able to challenge for that 10th position in that race, or essentially got no chance of challenging for 10th position in that race because the car that was in front of him now disappears off around the track and is now almost a lap ahead, and there's no chance of gaining that ground back on him. Hence, we have a set of regulations that reset the conditions for everyone in that race. That's a known thing. What the mind conditioning machine will try to tell you is, oh, look at what's happening now. All of these people are in the way of the race between the leaders. Well, what's the race between the leaders? The leader is Lewis Hamilton. Second place is Valtteri Bottas. Okay. Verstappen is still listed as third, but Perez is actually, Verstappen's out of the race now. Perez is actually now being promoted in third. So first is here at turn 19. Second is now here at turn 12. Third is the pink dot at turn 5. That is the race for the top 3 positions. Who's interfering with that race? Nobody's interfering with that race. Okay. What will happen as a result of this safety car is that second will bunch up, third will bunch up to second. All of the previously built up advantages will be wiped out. Oh, just throw these cars out of the way of that race now. We want to see that first car and the second car have a race. Well, you see in the race, you saw it for 51 laps, and you saw who was this much ahead of them now. Okay. So no, it's not about that, because what you're actually seeing, you're seeing a race here between 11th and 10th, what's going to happen to that race? Because 10th is going to go all the way around the track and join up at the end, and he's going to be left a lap behind. And yet the mind conditioning machine is going to try to tell you, oh, you just need to get these out of the way and get them out of the way of Valtteri Bottas being out of now. Race first. That's not what it's about. That's not what it's for. It's to restore sporting fairness to all competitors. If this race has to be neutralised, it's neutralised for everybody. If it has to be reset to a scratch position, it's reset to a scratch position for everybody. If Valtteri Bottas is unable to catch Lewis Hamilton here, then the guy that's behind Valtteri Bottas is allowed to catch Valtteri Bottas. So not only has Valtteri Bottas benefited from being able to close that gap up on the leader, he's also under threat from the car that's been able to catch the gap upon him. The same conditions apply to them all. The one that's really been disadvantaged is the leader, really. But everybody else, you've been able to close up on the car in front of you, but the car behind you has been enabled to close upon you. All of the previously built up advantages wiped out. But just because the leader has passed you doesn't mean your race is over. Doesn't mean you now lose a lap on the car you were previously challenging. Hence, we have a set of regulations which are carried out, a process that is carried out that restores sporting fairness to all competitors once this dynamic comes into play. Once a safety car is deployed to deal with a safety incident and lapping has taken place, this is what needs to happen before racing can resume. So let's play it through and let's listen to what the sporting commentators know about the situation.
A tyre for Max Verstappen, who was running in second place on the track, but now out. Safety car is out as well.
Yeah, it has to be. He's right in the firing line there, but also all of his tyres have got flat spots on them, so it looks to me, as he said, something's broken on the car rather than it being a tyre issue, a puncture, because at least 3 of his 4 tyres are absolutely wrecked. So from spinning.
So box. They just pulled it just before I got Delta.
They're shouting Delta at Lewis Hamilton to get down to the safety car Delta. So he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Safety cars picked him up and he couldn't pit, but Valtteri Bottas will now pit for Mercedes. Paul.
Just picking up on Verstappen, something definitely breaks. He's straight, round it goes, and I can see the car actually standing still. Looks like something in the wheel actually. Suspension looks good, but the wheel's just caved in over the tyre and the outer edge of it. It's a bit strange really what's going on.
So Hamilton, the leader, now approaching turn 9, is behind that safety car. All of the other cars are beginning to bunch up behind Hamilton. Norris is starting to disappear off into the distance. So Russell, who wants to be able to challenge Norris, Russell's in 10th position now. He's actually got a World Championship point with the retirement of Verstappen. He's been promoted into that top 10. So he's got 1 World Championship point. He wants to fight Norris for 2. But now Norris is disappearing off into the distance because Russell's held back behind that safety car. That's not okay.
And he didn't hit anything the chicane before, so it's, maybe something that's went on earlier in the lap, but his engineer, Gianpiero Lambassi, was actually on the radio saying, you need to push up as it broke, and here you're seeing the replay now.
Just having a quick look now on board with Max Verstappen, and yeah, you can feel it. Can't see it, but you can feel that something breaks at the rear there, and Verstappen absolutely no chance whatsoever of avoiding the gravel trap.
You're seeing some of these dots disappear when you get round the pit straight, and that is where they go into the pits to change tyres. So this will cause a few position changes, but this will play out. This is all part of what the teams use as part of their strategy. They try and use this situation to change their tyres because relative to the other cars, they don't lose any time. Because that time that they're spending in the pits, they get to catch that up when the other cars are travelling slow.
And out, Perez, who is now, or was up into the podium places, has pitted for Racing Point.
Look at Valtteri Bottas, see how far in second position he still is behind the leader. who needs to be thrown out of the way of that race between the leaders. That's not the purpose.
So where Hamilton is now going to be under pressure, of course, is on the restart with Valtteri Bottas, despite the damaged car.
Hamilton's going to be under pressure on the restart, despite the damaged car. So, how do you know that, Martin Brundle? Why is he going to be? Will they let the lap runners through? Says Martin Brundle in Abu Dhabi. I don't think that's mandatory, but that's normally on a wet day in Belgium. And if so, how long will they wait? Which is what they tell us in Abu Dhabi. Whilst that safety car period is unfolding in Abu Dhabi 2021, before this pretend error, race control, not knowing the rules and regulations and fumbling it and getting it wrong. Martin Brundle is able to tell you, well, this is what's going to happen here. Lewis Hamilton, the leader, is going to be under pressure from this car here. That's all the way back here with all of these cars in between. He's going to be under pressure by him. What do you know, Martin Brundle? Is this on a wet day in Belgium, and how long will they wait? Is it anything like this? No, it's nothing to do with that. This is the set of regulations that has to be carried out when a race is neutralised due to a safety concern. You then carry out a procedure to reset the parameters for all competitors, and then we go racing again.
Bottas with soft tyres on, and Lewis Hamilton with cold.
And they keep you all guessing, oh, what jeopardy, everybody. Oh, it's going to be hard against soft. It's going to be hot against cold. Oh, all the different variables and dynamics. What's going to happen? Stay aroused. Because they are salesmen.
Hard compound tyres. And we'll see where Bottas is in the snake.
I just wonder, Hamilton might have chance to come in and pit. And we're behind the safety car now, but there's enough of a gap over his teammate Valtteri Bottas on track.
So they do know, and the reason they know is because when you're experienced, when you do something as your job, and when you experience things time and time and time again, and it's your job to talk about it and explain it to people, you know things. And therefore, what they said in Abu Dhabi was in clear contravention of that. They were speaking an agenda.
For Hamilton to get in at the end of this lap, what has happened is that we've seen Sergio Perez pit, and Perez has gone on to...
So, despite Hamilton being picked up by the safety car as the leader of that race, he is still pitted because he can enter the pits and re-emerge on track ahead of the second place car, which is Bottas. But the cars that were originally held back behind Hamilton, they're still held back by the safety car, which is holding them back because the incident is being made safe prior to the instruction being given for the unlapping procedure to begin. Because the procedure, the wording of this is how we carry this out is, once it is safe to do this, we then do this. It's not safe yet. They're still dealing with making things safe, making the incident clear, clearing Verstappen's car, ensuring that the racing conditions, that the racetrack, the environment is safe. And once it's safe, we carry out the procedure, we reset the conditions for everybody, and then we can go racing again.
The soft compound tyre as Hamilton now comes in. Sebastian Vettel into the pits as well, but Ricciardo hasn't pitted, Leclerc, Albon hasn't pitted, and Norris I don't think pitted either in that safety car, and that's relegated Perez down into 7th. So Racing Point obviously felt that Sergio needed some soft tyres to go to the end of this race, and maybe expected others to come in and pit as well, but they've lost track position with Perez, who was in the podium places. Hamilton pits, comes back out again, still in the lead of this race, and there's his teammate Valtteri Bottas, obviously behind the safety car, can't go as fast as he would like, has to stick to a maximum time.
But between the two safety car lines, you can slat it.
Yes, you can.
And that's why Bottas turned up at speed.
They have a safety car 1 at the start and a safety car 2 at the end of the lap in terms of the lines. So
Delta, 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 Delta.
Calm down, man.
Calm down, dear. Well, this is what F1 TV interjects to keep you all excited, okay? Keep you, oh, it's exciting, what's going on here? You've got the voices keeping you aroused on the edge of your seat. It's all quite clear what's going on. There's a safety incident, there's a safety car. It's now lapping in front of George Russell, keeping those competitors going at a slower speed. Eventually, all the other cars on track will catch up with it. Before we go racing again, we have to achieve a condition where these cars that are on the track are in the correct race order, one behind the other, and all of the previously built up advantages are wiped out. Let's not get too excited yet. There's a long way to go on this. There's a long way to go. So, calm down, dear.
In other words, the delta is the time you have to stick to your earliest time of arrival at various points around the track, is what that's all about. Let's watch this. Oh, it broke before he even got to the... But those tyres are 32 laps old, but something right rare broke before.
Oh, yeah, see the debris coming off the car already.
I think that
George Russell's blue dot has become stationary. Whilst lapping behind the safety car, George Russell has lost control of his vehicle.
I think the tyre let go. I think the right tyre let go, and the rest got damaged in the spin before he got onto the gravel. That's how it looks to me. The tyre looks...
Oh, and that's George Russell. Behind the safety car, George Russell out as well. 32 laps, by the way, on that tyre Max Verstappen had done. Now, this is on the rundown to Aqua Minerali. What has happened to George Russell, who was handily placed?
So that's promoted Kimi Raikkonen up into 10th. Okay, now Russell was behind Norris, but when Sainz and Kvyat pitted, Norris stayed out on track, went by them when they were in the pit. So Norris is, from being in originally 10th prior to Verstappen's retirement, Norris is now in 6th. These things play out this way. But Raikkonen, who was held back behind Hamilton, he's now in a point scoring position and he wants to be able to challenge for more World Championship points. Raikkonen is currently the first car behind this safety car now. And the car that he wants to be challenging for the next World Championship point is Carlos Sainz, who is back here.
And obviously, and was running in the points, but George Russell out of the race, shaking his head.
Whether he's weaving around trying to keep some tyre temperature up and a boot full of throttle or something, and he's just dropped it.
Oh, let's have a...
That's exactly what he's done.
No.
He's given it a boot full of throttle to warm the tyres up, and it's done a 90 left.
Well, not the first driver we've seen that happen to, but that's a costly mistake by the looks of it for George Russell there.
Little bump. You could see you could just see where the tarmac was changing.
So once again, the safety car absolutely changing the face of this race.
Don't know what to say.
The safety car changing the face of the race. What do you know?
Quite sure anyone does, to be honest.
Yeah, some of us do.
Well, that could have been a points finish for George Russell, and he knows that as well as he runs away from the scene. So Russell out, Raikkonen up into the...
Norris has now pitted, dropping him back behind Kvyat and Sainz, as you can see in the running order. Norris is now 9th position. Raikkonen is 10th, but look at the relative locations. Raikkonen is held back behind the safety car. Norris will catch up with the back of that safety car bunch.
The points as a result of that. Hamilton leads from Bottas. Hamilton and Bottas both changing their tyres. Ricciardo...
Will they let the lap runners through? I don't think it's mandatory, but that's normally on a wet day in Belgium, on a long track, on a short track. And if they do, how long will they wait? is what Martin Brundle, the so-called expert, was conditioning the world to be disorientated with at Abu Dhabi 2021. Watch what really happens.
Leclerc and Albon stayed out to get and to keep track position. Sergio Perez, who was running in the podium places, conceding track position. And is this Lance Stroll out of the race? Oh dear. Oh, I hope that man's okay. Ted, you were down there.
Yeah,
Lance
the medics
Stroll
are with him. There are some medics on the pit wall, and they're just coming into the Racing Point garage.
Sorry about that.
There are some going.
Brakes were really cold.
Brakes were really cold.
Yeah, it is an occupational hazard. These are very, very brave people, and men and women down at Racing Point who do this work on the pit stops. So they're being well looked after by the medics down here. So they're all going from the front of the garage in to see whether that.
So everybody's bunched up, and like I say, the safety car is sat ahead of Raikkonen. Raikkonen is now in 10th position. 9th place is at the end of the safety car, Snake. 9th place is almost a lap ahead of 10th. Before Verstappen crashed out of this race, that's not how it was. Before that happened, these competitors, Raikkonen was only a matter of 10 seconds behind, able to challenge, able to gain that 10 seconds in the latter stage of that race and potentially challenge for position. Now he's left well over a minute behind, just due to somebody else crashing out of the race. That's not okay, hence we could perform this procedure.
Mechanic is all fine. It looked to be essentially okay. So it was a little bit of a slow stop from Lewis Hamilton. That's why it was so tight between him and Bottas coming out under the safety.
Are they telling you this? Are they clearly explaining to you what you are seeing, what is going on, what needs to go on, and why? They're not, are they? They are paid to hype up the show. They are paid to keep you, your mind being, its attention going from here to there. What's going on here? Oh, and it could be this. We'll cut to him. Oh, what have we just seen there? Oh, it's really exciting. Stay excited about this, everybody. This is how exciting Formula One is. Anything can happen. It's only live once. No, it's 6.5 laps of tedium whilst you watch this unfold. But it needs to happen on the grounds of safety. But we can't do that. We've got the media to hype this up because we don't want people to switch off. We don't want people to believe that this is going to be 6.5 laps of tedium, because their little heads won't be able to cope with that. They'll have moved on already. They'd have switched Instagram on their phones and be going from 10-second funny clip to 10-second funny clip, and they'd have forgotten about Formula One by then. We have to keep people's minds occupied, don't we? By the mind conditioning machine. Don't tell them the truth.
Car, as you say, despair for George Russell.
Well,
surely
we're looking
would have
at him
scored
now,
points.
Ted.
Yeah.
We're looking at him now.
He would have scored points.
And his body language just says it all, quite frankly. He doesn't want to talk to anyone. He's waved the marshals away to say, please, just leave me alone. And I think the reality of what's just happened there is now starting to sink in.
He's having a Hakkinen moment, isn't he?
Yeah.
Character building, I think we can say. So brave from Renault, isn't it, to keep Daniel Ricciardo out. That's a brave decision, especially with Leclerc and
bravery.
Albon and Perez on fresh rubber behind. Actually, Albon, did he pit again?
Fresh, hard, soft, hot, cold, keep guessing, dejection, the emotion, how does it make you feel? Or just tedium?
Oh, he didn't.
No, okay, so Albon on old rubber, trying to get that track position as well. Mercedes.
I'm looking forward, Ted, to the notebook today, because I'm sure you're going to ask Racing Point the question, why did you pit Sergio Perez behind the safety car? Because he might be able to fight his way through the field. However, they've given up what would have been a podium place, and now he's running in 6th.
Well, we'll see if Danny Rick can hold on to 3rd.
Yeah, well, he might still be able to fight it.
So, what you're seeing is this selection of dots of different colours on the track. Raikkonen being the first, he's 10th position in the race. This isn't the correct race order, is it? We're not seeing first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth in the correct race order, nose to tail, are we? That is the restart condition that must be achieved before restarting. Simple. That's what those regulations there to achieve. They are mandatory. Despite Martin Brundle, the expert, presented expert, been awarded an award by the King for his broadcasting. Lying to you.
His way back, but on a track that has proved very, very tricky to overtake, I'm not quite sure what the answer is. So I'm not apportioning blame. I just don't quite know the answer.
There's also the safety thing. You know, Mercedes were absolutely convinced that the pitting was the right thing for them to do. Obviously, they can pretty much do what they want in their position, sure. But having seen a tyre failure, as it looks like, and I think the engineers at Mercedes pit wall thought the same as you, Martin, looking at that Verstappen, that's a tyre failure, and Verstappen had pitted on lap 19, so the tyres were pretty old. It's the safest thing to get onto new tyres. Maybe Racing Point thought that as well, but Perez had stopped later. He'd stopped later, wasn't he?
Just about to say, he'd gone a lot later than others around him. So, the lapped cars can now unlap themselves.
The lapped cars can now unlap themselves. Now, bearing in mind, George Russell dropped it under the safety car around about here, around about 11. All right, they will have had to ensure that that was now safe as well prior to carrying out this procedure.
That's why they're being waved through by the safety car. Bernd Maylander leading a race once again. Was it over 700 laps he's led, but he's never won a race. Bernd Maylander
filling the airwaves with utter bullshit. Oh, the safety car driver has led the race for a record number. What a load of bullshit. Irrelevance.
Maylander.
He was a good racing driver. He won a few for himself in touring cars and that, but yeah, he does it.
So, bearing in mind the cars at that stage behind the safety car, they were no longer lapped, were they? They were ahead of the lead car, meaning the lead car was no longer lapping them. But they're released, aren't they? Okay, so what's going on? We're restoring the conditions for a restart. Who does that need to apply to? Well, all competitors. The first car is Raikkonen, so every still remaining competitor, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Latifi, Grosjean, Vettel and Stroll, need to make their way around, so we've got the correct race order. Vettel is the red dot behind Hamilton. Stroll is the pink dot way back here. Let's see what happens.
Brilliant job for Formula One, Bernd Maylander. He takes a bit of stick, doesn't he? Because sometimes when he's going too slow, he's going too slowly. That's as per requested from the race.
There's Vettel passing the leader in the safety car. Stroll is still another car.
Correct, to get a gap and sort some other issues out on track.
We've just passed the start-finish line. We've begun the next lap. Stroll hasn't made it past the leader in the safety car yet. Remember, once the last lapped car has passed the leader, the safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap. That is affording that last release car the opportunity of making it around that track to catch up with the back of that safety car snake to restore sporting fairness to all competitors. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, so Burton takes a bit of stick sometimes for how fast he is or isn't going.
He's a great man to spend some time with, though. Is Bernd Maylander. Unflappable in that job, and I think does a terrific job. Because quite often these Formula One cars are going slower than they would want. He's going absolutely flat out as well.
Yeah, he's trying to collect them up, though, isn't he? All the little ducklings, and then let them go.
Collecting all the little ducklings up. I thought this was a highly technical, fast-moving, complex sport, or is it just verbal diarrhea from the experts? What we're seeing is the pink dot moving through that field of dots, and they will eventually, in a few seconds, pass that leader and safety car. The safety car will stay out on track for the remainder of this lap and perform one more to afford the opportunity to Stroll, that pink dot, of making around to catch the back of the pack. Let's see what happens.
So this is going to be a pretty ferocious last few laps of this.
And there you go. Stroll has now unlapped him. Well, he's passed the leader in the safety car, and he's now being given the opportunity to make it around the track to try and catch the back of the pack. Oh, will the safety car come in this lap? No. No, because there is a regulation, a requirement for that safety car to return to the pits at the end of the following lap. And if they do let the lap... Will they let the lap runners through? I'm not sure it's mandatory, but that's normally on a wet day. And if they do, when they say if they do, they mean release them to get them out of the way. How long will they wait before we get the race going again? This is how they hyped it up in Abu Dhabi. This is how they conditioned the minds to believe anything can happen before they broke the rules to create what they created. All you need to do is watch what does happen, and this happens every time. Clear set of regulations for a clear purpose. I am not the mind conditioning machine conditioning you with falsehoods, verbal diarrhea, and falsehoods regarding purpose. They're being paid to do that. That's what media is being done in every facet of your life. Paid to condition you to accept the agenda of those who are in control and who are profiting from it.
This race, what are we going to get? About 5 laps, 6 laps of this race. It's taken a while to clear Max Verstappen's
6.5 laps, Crofty. Let's just 6.5 laps gone out of the race. You know, you thought that it was only going to take 3.4 laps to clear Abu Dhabi and get racing again, even though you've experienced 6.5 laps taken out of this one.
Red Bull and then George Russell's Williams from the side of the track.
Yeah, and there's a lot of debris, isn't there, where Russell went off, so, and that's absolutely on the racing line, so they'll want to be sweeping that up.
That's a historic picture because they will not carry out the unlapping procedure if the track has not been declared safe by the clerk of the course. But what are they doing? They're disorientating. Oh, yeah, but it's still not safe. No, it is safe because it has to be safe.
You're right, we're going to get a handful of laps, aren't we?
And we are, as Perez tries to get back up into the...
Will they go racing with all that debris on the track, and will that cause punctures? Oh, stay on the edge of your seat. You still might see some punctures, everybody. It could all happen. No. It's people's jobs to ensure that that's not allowed to happen. But nobody knows what anybody's job is anymore. It's all about excitement, and it's all about selling crack to the kiddies.
The podium places again. Daniel Ricciardo inherits 3rd place behind this safety car. Was it 1 or 2 tattoos that Cyril had to get at the end of the season? Was it 1 per podium? I'm not quite sure. Charles Leclerc up to 4th for Ferrari. Charles Leclerc, he finished 4th in the previous race in Portugal.
Are we getting a tattoo? Should we get a tattoo, everybody? Is it verbal diarrhea? Filling the airwaves with just noise and verbal diarrhea. Have they explained to you what the procedure is? What's taking place here? What needs to happen before we go racing again, and why? Have they explained to you about resetting the conditions of this race? Or are they talking about, he's found himself in 3rd. Is he going to get another tattoo? Oh, excitement! Verbal diarrhea.
Yeah, well, Racing Point have rolled the dice, haven't they? But
we've rolled the dice. We've played some clever cards.
overtaking's hard here, and time is very limited.
Like I say, I'm sure Ted will have a chat and find out the answer in the notebook. But I'm fascinated to know what the reasoning was. You know, when Christian Horner asked, what would you do, Martin? You know, to me, if you got the track position.
So let's have a look. Hamilton first, Bottas second, Ricciardo third. I'm not reading down there, I'm looking at the track here. Leclerc fourth, but it corresponds with this order here, doesn't it? All the way down to Norris in ninth, and then 10th is Raikkonen gradually catching, and they're all in the correct race order. They're all bunching up. The safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap. Let's have a look.
Position, keep it.
Yes, but
Is the safety car coming in this lap? We think it could do, should do. Why do you think that? Because that's not in the regulations, which is what you told us in Abu Dhabi. Oh, well, we're going to see some racing. We're carrying out a procedure that you've commentated on countless times.
had they have all been on his tail on the restart and he stayed out when had old, cold tyres.
Well, so did they expect...
I think what's caught them out is they perhaps thought everybody was going to do the same thing.
But they didn't.
No. So it's a roll of the dice, but overtaking is a touch too difficult. But he should be mighty once we get underway.
Well, let's hope we do get underway. Let's go to Christian Horner.
Let's hope we do get underway. I think it's highly likely you're going to get underway, but you just need to carry out this procedure. Yeah, this is that mandatory safety car lap. So on the previous lap, Lance Stroll passed that leader and safety car. Now the safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap. That affords Lance Stroll the opportunity of making it around that track and catching the back of the track. Let's see what happens.
Before we do, Christian, do you know any cause for Max's accident, or is it too early?
Well, obviously still a bit early, but from everything we can see, it looks like an instantaneous puncture, which suggests some kind of maybe debris or something like that. It's just, obviously he just lost that tyre, so a huge shame, because obviously he'd made the pass on Valtteri. I don't think we'd have caught Lewis, but it was a guaranteed second.
Been a cruel race for a few today. Pierre Gasly.
Nothing's guaranteed, is it? Nothing's guaranteed. Anything can happen. It's only live once.
Esteban Ocon, Kevin Magnussen, and now Max. None of them really their fault why they retired. But you've got Alex Albon out there to try and salvage something for the team. This is going to be a bit hairy, isn't it, when we get the restart?
It is, because you've got, Daniel, Charles and Alex all on old tyres trying to generate heat in them.
It's going to be exciting on the restart, everybody.
And then you've got
with heat.
Bunch of guys, particularly Perez, on one looks like a new set of softs, and they're going to have some pace. So we've got track position over performance at the moment, but it's going to be an interesting last few laps,
isn't it? Just thanks ever so much, Christian. Thanks for being with us this weekend. Max Verstappen was running in second place when he had that instantaneous puncture.
Thanks for that, Christian. Thanks for playing your part in hyping up the show, talking about the hards and the softs and the olds and the young and the heat and the coolness and the rolling of the dice and the playing the clever cards, and everybody's excited. All coulda, woulda, shoulda, might happen, might not. Crazy. Exciting though, isn't it? What's happening? It seems that the field is becoming to be bunched, and what we have is the running order is in the correct running order: first, second, third, fourth, fifth, all in the correct order, all the way down to 15th position, the last running car in that race, all in the correct order. And the distance that you as a competitor was behind the guy in front, that's been wiped out. But the guy that's behind you, the advantage you had over him, that's been wiped out as well. So we're just now, all the previously built up advantages have been wiped out. We're resetting this race to a scratch position before we go racing again. That's what these regulations achieve. Oh, but I don't think it's mandatory. But that's normally on a wet day in Belgium. And how long will they wait? Oh, what jeopardy! Oh, it's exciting! Salesman. One of us is telling you the truth. One of us is giving a clear explanation of what is taking place and why it is taking place and how it impacts each of those competitors in that sporting event. The others are the paid experts lying to you, lying to your children, mind-fucking you, mind-raping your children. Understand that.
As Christian was saying, safety cars ending at the end of this lap. Nothing he could do about it. And, well, every race he's finished this season, Max Verstappen, he has finished on the podium, but that's what now 4 DNFs for the season for him. George Russell was in the points and just put a bit too much pressure down on the throttle and spun out, crashed out into the barrier, so he was out as well behind this safety car, which is ending now. Lewis Hamilton.
Safety cars ending now, having achieved this condition here. All remaining competitors lined up in the correct race order, nose to tail, with all of the previously built up advantages wiped out. Funny that, isn't it? Those advantages, those gaps between these
Trying to get some heat.
Look a little bit like this, with approximately half a second to a second between each competitor. You know, that gap on track of there being about a car length between each car, and that when they cross the timing line equates to about half a second to a second between each competitor. And that's the condition that they are in, that needs to be achieved
Trying to get some heat
before they go racing again. We get to Abu Dhabi 2021. They can't tell you that. They can't explain that. Instead, they lie about the possibilities. They lie about the rules and regulations of the sport. Are we going to perform this procedure? I don't think it's mandatory, but that's usually when you're wet. And if they do perform the procedure, how long will they wait for these people to get out of the way? It's nothing to do with getting out of the way, is it? As I've just clearly demonstrated, that's not getting people out of the way. That is restoring a fair restart condition to all competitors. On lap 57, the lap which they know that if you only release the lapped cars on lap 57, then lap 58 is a safety car lap, it's a safety car finish. They're saying, will the safety car come in at the end of this lap? We think it could do, should do. You are projecting that you, the experts, think it should come in, it could come in, having not carried out this procedure. The experts of the sport suggesting that this procedure doesn't have to take place, keeping people disorientated, raping people's minds. 6.5 laps, clear purpose, a clear restart condition met. This was done by Michael Massey. This was witnessed by every single team, every single competitor, the media who are broadcasting this, the media company responsible for showing you the pictures, F1 TV. They all made the mistake at Abu Dhabi 2021, all of them. None of the teams protested that the rules were broken. The media were interjecting. Why aren't we getting these lap cars out of the way? We only need one racing lap. Well, that's not valid, but that's what they played you. Martin Brundle, David Croft lying to you before the rules were broken. Oh, it's just one man in race control where there's at least 10 of the governing body working in that race control office. One man felt a little bit under pressure and he got a bit disorientated and he got things wrong. But everybody was getting it wrong in the same way before he got it wrong. That's funny, isn't it? But nobody knows, nobody understands whether it's right or wrong. Nobody knows the rules because we're all fulfilling the agenda of who is ultimately controlling what they want to happen that they're profiting from. And there will be no consequence because they also own the agencies that are tasked with upholding law, upholding rules and regulations, and ensuring there's a consequence for those that contravene it. Yeah, they own them as well. This is the world we're living in. This is how the level of corruption is, and you need to use this example to wake people up to what's really going on. So the next video will show you exactly what they did at Abu Dhabi 2021. Exactly what they did in lying to us all, lying to 108.7 million people live at Abu Dhabi 2021, defrauding a global audience. Perpetrators, frauds, absolute criminals who made billions out of selling the planet a global fraud. And the fraud agencies of this planet, tasked with holding these people to account, with punishing these people, turn a blind eye to it because they're being controlled by the people, by the criminals controlling society. This is what's really happening in this world. The people at the very top, in the positions of power, control the governments with their wealth, and they control the agencies that are supposed to be there to uphold the laws, the rules of our society, the rules that we've built up in this planet to uphold the things that are right. And these criminals are ruling. We need to change this. Thank you for your time.